The phone rang off the hook, she read. As she poured milky coffee from the saucer back into the cup, she wondered if old phones had startled with electricity, if they'd jumped right out of the cradle from the shock. With a blister on her heel from the recent heat and humidity, she folded down the back of her ballet flat. The cafe's air conditioning was up too high, and she had no sweater to cover her bare shoulders. She was trying to read a book her friend Tabitha had lent her, but it was filled with a tedious cast of artists in turn-of-the-century Paris, so she set it aside. Eleanor pulled her hair into a ponytail and swirled it into a bun, which she punctured with the stem of her glasses to hold in place. She pondered the word cradle. The cafe air was thick with roasted beans, and the waiter, who set her plate with a clatter on the zinc table, reeked of coffee from his pores. She thanked him, sat up in her chair, brought the cup to her lips, and sipped. Eleanor had elegant limbs and 3 feet of straight spine to the top of her head. Despite the challenges of being tall, she refused to stoop. Even in high school, once she got over the drama of being taller than many of the boys, she wore heels whenever she wanted to. These days, she wandered about the East Village in 5 different versions of ballet slippers, one for almost every day of the week. She checked the blister and resolved to stop by the pharmacy for some liquid bandage, slipped the leather slippers off, and sat on her feet to keep them warm as a blast of thunder clapped and a downpour exploded outside. Miles swept in and shook out his umbrella. He would be irritated by the rain, she knew. On the lake at Christmas time with pine and cinnamon in the air, he liked the rhythmic backdrop of rain. But at the end of a busy day in the city, with the outdoor tables pulled inside, he wouldn't be able to smoke a cigarette with his coffee. She watched as he shook his wet hair and scanned the place for her profile, the angled nose, creamy cheeks on pale skin, the self-assurance in the length of the back of her neck, and then the quirky red glasses stuck in her tangle of hair. Miles bumped through the tables on his way toward her, excusing himself to the other patrons, till a young woman stood and said his name in a husky voice that carried to the back of the room and the table where Eleanor was reading. She looked up. The pixie was pressed too close against him. There were gray bentwood chairs and metal tables urging them toward each other. The girl wasn't trying to move away, and neither was Miles. His face was flushed, and the girl said, "Call me," as Miles looked caught in a tight space between pleasing the dark pixie's pleasant smile and tossing glances at Eleanor to say, "I'm on my way, babe. I'm trying to get there, honey." She studied his face, how he'd changed since they were in high school, when he was awkward and stood too close at parties, popped up behind her locker door, and was hesitant to drop his tray across from hers in the lunchroom. Miles had grown into good looks over the years. His slight build had filled out. His bright hair had darkened to a curly, tousled gold, and he had stretched to 6 feet 2 inches tall. But more than that, he had grown into charisma, and she smiled to herself to see the boy she'd known since 6th grade exercising his newfound magnetism. "Sorry, Elle," he said, as he got to the table. He kissed her. She kissed him and offered a sip of her coffee. "It's a latte with whipped cream." She licked her upper lip to catch any remnant sweet. His legs wrapped around her legs under the table, and he took her hand, kissed the tips of her fingers and took a tiny nibble, then a tender suck of her forefinger. He could be gentle. Raised genteel, from an old Connecticut family with money and manners to match, Miles wore smart shoes and tailored suits in fine wools. Still, he tangled his body around hers as often as he could. "What was your day like?" he asked. "Amazing." His hand rested above her knee on the inside of her thigh. He was distracted. Eleanor nibbled on a corner of lemon tart as her eyes shifted to the girl who was watching them.